Hey friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. I need to make a Christmas card today for the Make the Cards challenge. The theme is Christmas. So I pulled out this Plentiful Pine stamp set from Altenew. I've had this in my closet for my stamp room or my craft room for a couple years, and I love this set. The pine trees are gorgeous. They have 4 layers. You can also get, they're 2 different sizes. You can get the stencil and mask set, and you can get a set of dies, which I did. I splurged. And it comes with this beautiful layering guide that has lots of inspiration on the inside. And I had a card in my head that I definitely was going to make, and then I saw a couple of the other ones in there, so I pulled those. I decided to case 2 of the cards in the layering guide. So I pulled out some of my ink cubes because I have the Altenew ink cubes, and not all of them, but I store them in these totally Tiffany. They used to be called Stamp and Go bags. I'm not sure what they're called now. This is the 1-inch size, and it comes with that plastic tray and that really nice heavy duty vinyl. And you can see that I actually created a swatch sheet for those that I keep on the bottom of. So I make sure I get everything put away. I like to keep the color collections together because I'll just pull out a color collection. And for this one, I love the Mountain Pine ink color, so I pulled out that color collection. You saw that I had the Distress Resist spray because I want to experiment and make a snowstorm with that. Like, I really like making snowy snow banks and snowfall cards, and I made a video years ago. I mean years, like 8 years, maybe more, that is still my most popular video about snowbanks. And so I'm kind of going to do the same thing on this card, except I'm going to put a darker night sky. So you saw that I just cut out a bank from a piece of scrap paper. So I'm using these Altenew blender brushes. I just got a set of 4 of these. I think they only come in sets of 4. And I pulled out, I believe this is called Arctic ink. And it's a very nice light blue. I like to use it for skies and for snow and things like that. It's just such a pretty color. I use it a lot. This is one of my go-to inks, and probably I should just get the larger pad of this at some point, because I can see along the edge of that ink pad that it's going to need to be refilled soon. So I either need to get the larger ink pad or the refill, because this is one of the colors I use a lot. So I just kind of made a couple of banks there. It's very subtle. I only put that color in to shadow the bank and make it easier to see. So and I try to blend out the blue a little bit. I'm not sure that I'm in love with those blender brushes, to be honest. You certainly wouldn't use it for a big area, and definitely I don't know. I don't feel like I got as nice a blend as I usually do. I prefer my larger brushes. So I'm using this Distress Resist spray, and I'm going to go ahead. I've also got this shimmer spray, but that's kind of blue, and I really want to experiment with the Distress spray. So I just like squirted this all over that paper, and I'm heat setting it now. And I think that I'm going to try a different sprayer next time, because this literally covered that whole sheet, and I got a couple of big blobs. So I'm going to change the sprayer. Like, Maker Forte makes a really nice sprayer, and you can just get the sprayer itself, and I can put it right in that bottle. And so that's what I'm going to do. So the snow is dried, and this is a Distress Resist technique. So I'm inking on now. I'm using, I believe this is Persian blue. And I picked this color because that was one of the colors they used for a sky on the inspiration guide that came with the layering. And I thought it looked really pretty because they have so many blues. Oh my goodness. Like I love the blues that Altenew has and the greens. They have the prettiest greens. So I also pulled out some jet black because my thing this year has been making the edges darker and the center brighter. So I'm going over this with black. I do this a lot with my Distress Oxides. And the jet black is Altenew's dye-based ink. You could use their permanent black ink pad. Then I took the Persian blue back out and went over the black and the blue. So it's softening the black and it's blending the lines between the two colors. So I'm going to have a nice night sky in a blizzard. And I'm also going to, this card is a bit of an experiment just because I really wanted to try out that Distress Resist spray. So I just spritzed it on a couple of times and I did blot up a couple big blobs, but I missed the one right in the center of the card, which is okay because it looks like a blizzard. But I definitely want to try a spray nozzle that I can control more. So I'm definitely going to experiment with that. So, and here's something, like this is dye-based ink. It should just wipe right up. Did not wipe right up. So I've got these blue stains. I've tried several different stamp cleaners to clean that up. I think I'm going to try shampoo next because shampoo actually always seems to get ink off my hands. So I decided that I'm going to stamp directly onto the card base. I'm doing a single layer card here. I love single layer cards. And there's 2 different sizes of trees here. Each one has 4 layers. And I believe I pull out the smaller one. Yep, I pulled out the smaller one. And so I started with the most solid stamp and I use the lightest color. And the layering guide actually shows this, and I had pulled out these colors, and these are the colors that they used also, because the mountain pine is gorgeous. So this first one is called Firefly. And so I stamped it a couple of times in a couple of places, and then I decided that I would do the next layer, and they're down in order on the sheet. So this one has a little less stamp area, and I'm doing this one with, what was this one called? Grassy Fields or Grass Fields. So I did that, and I'm not being fussy about lining things up perfectly, and you'll see in the end it doesn't matter. So the third color I'm using on the third stamp is Shadow Creek, and it's already really getting beautiful. And I'm surprised how well it's showing up on that blue. Now that snow is going to show through because this is an emboss resist technique. And here's the mountain pine, my favorite. Like there's a couple of greens that I just pull out all the time. This is one of them. And I'm going to let that dry because it is sitting on top of other ink. And when you ink blend, your ink actually is kind of wet, and you want to let any ink blending that you do, you want to let that dry before you do any die cutting or anything like that. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to put that aside and let the ink dry, and then I'll buff it off the trees, and that Distress Resist spray will show through below. So it'll look like the trees are part of the blizzard. I am going to make one tree. I'm using the larger tree here, and I'm going to go through the same 4 steps, and I'm going to die cut this out and pop it up on some foam so it has some dimension in front of the other trees. You could put a whole forest of trees behind there if you wanted to. Like you could, make like other hills full of trees on the back, or partial trees, or there's so many different ways you can do this. It's just so beautiful. Look how beautiful that is. That looks like I hand painted it, and it looks like I'm being super careful layering, which I'm not. Like, this is not a fussy layering stamp, and it is so gorgeous. Some of Altenew's stamps that you have to layer are so fussy that if you don't line them up just right, they don't look okay. But they have lots of them like this one where I don't need to worry about that. So I did pull out the die, and I'm going to run this through my die cutter and pop it up on some foam and put it in front of the other trees. And then I just added a sentiment, and I'm stamping directly onto the card base because I like single layer cards. I like sentiment stamped directly onto the card, and I do have one piece that's not single layer, and I decided not to. I was going to do some white splatter over that front Christmas tree, but I decided not to. And you could, because you can see the snow flurries show through the other trees, which is really nice. I buffed off the ink there. And I'm moving on to the second card. Now this card is coming totally from the inspiration guide, although I'm using a vertical card layout rather than a horizontal card layout, only because that is what I had pre-cut. I had cut a whole bunch of card bases, and that's what I had. Now this is the Swiss Dot background stamp. Love this. Love this background stamp. It's a good one. There's so many different things you can do. And for this particular time, I left it on the, right on the plastic sheeting that it comes on. And I went ahead and stamped that in the Arctic blue. Now, the inspiration guide shows a light gray. I believe it was fog maybe that they used. And I decided to use the greens that they showed because I love these greens. This is a whole different shade of green, and this is Volcano Lake. So I'm going to stamp this, and I'm not going to do all 4 layers. I just pulled one off, and this was like the third one. So there's lots of white space in this, and I stamped it twice in the Volcano Lake, and then I pulled out. Actually, I used the same one, and I'm going to do this one in the, I forgot the name of this one. Lagoon? I think this is Lagoon, or Emerald. That's the emerald color. So I stamped it in the emerald, and I just kind of created a little scene. I picked a sentiment that I wanted on there, and I think it says warm winter wishes or something like that. And I love the way this came out. This is a single layer card. If I had to mass produce these, this would be so easy to make 50 of these so quickly. I would probably use my larger Misty for my original Misty for the background stamp instead of doing it the way that I did it. And that's 2 cards. I've got so many cards left to make for Christmas. I need to get my butt going. And that's why I decided to make 3 cards today, because I need more cards. So I'm going to do another one, and this one is also kind of cased from the inspiration guide. Again, I'm making a vertical layout, and instead of a horizontal one. And they have also used a black mat behind theirs. I'm just creating single layer cards here, easy to send in the mail. And again, I'm going to use that Arctic blue and create my sky. And I'm just going to keep blending this until I get a nice consistent background that I like. So again, this time I pulled out the larger tree, and I'm going to place, I don't know, 3 or 4 around. And I was thinking about going up, but I think that I'll go down instead. And I got a little spot of ink. No worries, I'll cover that up with another one of my trees. The third one I'm going to stamp off the page. Like, I like to have a couple off the page. I think it looks much nicer. And paying attention to the inspiration card, they did the same thing. So I'm going to finish these 3 trees in the back, and then I'm going to put 1 or 2 in the front. And I'm going through the same colors I used before, the Firefly, the Grassfield, Shadow Creek, and Mountain Pine. And I am cleaning off my stamp in between. So I'll pull out the third one. And as you go on with the layers, there's less and less tree and more blank space. So you can see the other colors below. You're using light colors for the large base, and then you get darker as you go, pardon my head. And you get darker as you go along. So now I know I need to cover up that splotch. I could try to erase it off with my Tombow sanded eraser, but I'm still working here. And my head is going to be in the way. So I finish off these 3 layers. Every time I stamp this layer, I just gasp. It's so pretty. Like, this layer just finishes off that tree so perfectly. Isn't that mountain pine color gorgeous? Like, oh, love, love, love. And this is the reason why Altenew inks are one of my favorite sets of ink pads. Catherine Pooler's I love. Distress Oxides I love. Altenew I love. And now I'm in love with Maker Forte's Color Hive inks. I'll do a video on that coming up soon. Love, love, love them for so many reasons. But the colors, like for all the Altenew inks, the colors are beautiful. And I love that they come in sets of 3 or 4, that somebody who's an actual artist designed and selected as a collection because they go well together when you're stamping layers. So you can see this is covering up those other trees beautifully. I don't have to mask off the trees or anything because I'm using the same colors for all of them. And it actually, I love the way this turns out. And I decided to use the Happy Holidays sentiment on this one because I hadn't used it on any cards yet. You can see all my gray hair. I actually really love that I'm not coloring my hair anymore, by the way. I feel like it's very liberating. I have a ton of gray for a person who is still in their 50s. So it's a lot of gray. And I would normally put that in that lower right corner, but that sentiment was way bigger than I expected, and I didn't want it to go over the top of the tree because I wasn't sure how well that would actually show up. So I put it above the trees. I'm just making sure it's lined up. And my poor little mini Misty, I accidentally missed the slot for the tool holder that I have and dropped it on the floor, and it broke the bottom hinge, but it still works. And I'm too cheap to buy a new one. So there we go. There are the 3 cards. Like, I have way more card ideas for this. Those 2 on the left are cased. The other one is my experiment of using the Distress Resist spray. And I like it a lot. It gives you the blizzard effect, and it worked beautifully for this. I'll link everything below. And I would love it if you subscribe to my channel. If you're not already subscribed, give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment and let me know what your favorite holiday stamp is. Thank you so much for watching, friends. Have a wonderful day.